Okay, here we go. So today, section 6.4 is basically like the last section we did, but we're just going to add one more to this, and we'll add it in a little bit. Would this thing be a parallelogram? Yes, it would, because opposite sides are congruent. And if you have opposite sides that are congruent, you're going to have a parallelogram because this thing by side makes two congruent triangles, which makes this angle congruent to this angle, which makes this side parallel to this side, and it makes this angle congruent to this angle, which makes this side parallel to this side. So then we have two sets of parallel sides, so then we have a parallelogram. So if we have opposite sides congruent, then we make a parallelogram. Okay? So, Teo sketches a design of a quadrilateral shaped building. If angle 1 is supplementary to angles both 2 and 4, is this a parallelogram? So if this is 80 degrees and this is 100 degrees and this is 100 degrees, would this be a parallelogram? And the answer would be yes. Because if this is 80 and this is 100, this is parallel to this. And if this is 80 and this is 100, this is parallel to this because they're same side interior angles. And once we get two pairs of opposite sides parallel, it's a parallelogram. That's the definition. So, if you have, and then I'm going to write in one more here on this drawing on the board. So if you have two pairs of consecutive angles that are supplementary, then you have a parallelogram. Okay? If opposite angles are congruent, then you have a parallelogram. Okay? So, what would make this a parallelogram? Are we talking about angles or sides? Sides. So to figure out what would make this a parallelogram, set these equal to each other. So 4r plus 7 equals 7r plus 1. What do we do to both sides? Minus 4r. So 7 equals 3r plus 1. Subtract 1. 3r equals 6. Divide by 3. R equals 2. Okay? Then these two. S plus 5 equals 2s minus 2. What do we do to both sides? This is a 5. Minus an s. So 5 equals s minus 2. Add 2. S equals 7. So if s equals 7 and r equals 2, then that makes a parallelogram because that makes opposite sides congruent. If we have two pairs of opposite sides congruent, then it's a parallelogram. If the diagonals bisect each other, then it's a parallelogram. Okay, here's the new one. If we have one pair of opposite sides that's both parallel and congruent, so if we have one pair of opposite sides that's parallel and those two sides are congruent, then it makes a parallelogram. Okay? You can't have these two parallel and these two congruent. It doesn't work that way. You have to have the same pair of sides parallel and congruent, then you have a parallelogram. Okay? So that's ways of proving a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So these are what? What's AC and BD called? What are AC and BD called? Diagonals. So AE is x plus 2, BE is 2, CE is 2x minus 2, and DE is x minus 2. So, what do you set equal to each other? Well, I would set the easiest ones equal to each other. I would set DE equal to BE. X minus 2 equal to 2. If we add 2 to each side, x equals 4. If x equals 4, that makes this 6. 8 minus 2 is 6. That makes that 2 and that 2. Okay? Then it's a parallelogram because they bisect each other. That splits it in half, that splits it in half. Is this a parallelogram? Looks like a parallelogram. And because these are supplementary, that makes this side parallel to this side. If this side is parallel to this side and these two are congruent, is a parallelogram? The answer is yes. When the same side is parallel and congruent, that's a parallelogram. If this is 58 and 123 and 58, is it a parallelogram? No. Because are these supplementary? No, they add up to 181, not 180. So this one's a no. This one's a no. A mechanic raises a truck using a lift. For safety, the floor must be horizontal and the top to the top of the lift. So the top of the lift must be parallel to the floor. Is this lift in a safe position? Okay. Well, this and this are supplementary, right? Which makes this parallel to this. They're also both 6, so they're also congruent. If it's parallel and congruent, does it make a parallelogram? Yes. It makes a parallelogram, so it's safe because those two sides are parallel. That's what we're talking about today in the first section.